Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Strands of Grace. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. I know I have been gone for so long after I let y'all know that y'all are gonna meet David in the next video. He's actually here right now. Come here. This is David.
Hi everybody.
He is actually going to be in my next video where y'all are going to get to know him more. But in this video, I am going to explain how I knew he was the one. And he's just here helping me film and stuff like that. He's so sweet and supportive. So y'all will get to know him more next time. But I just wanted him to say hey. So y'all, I do want to say that this video isn't so that you can take everything that I've said and know how to know if somebody is the one for you. Of course, there are similarities in every story about how someone knew that someone else was the one. But I do want to say that I believe that God speaks to each of us uniquely, and there were things that God said to me based off of my relationship with him and my experiences with the Lord and just with different relationships in general. And so I do want to tell y'all how I knew David was the one, but I want y'all to know that God speaks to each of us uniquely, and most of all, I just want you to be encouraged. This story actually goes back 2 years. And no, I have not known David for 2 years, but God showed me who David was 2 years ago. So let's go all the way back to 2020. Okay, almost 3 years ago now. So in 2020, I randomly had this dream in June or July where this man was spinning me around, and I said, I finally found you. And he said, I know, I love you. And y'all, this dream was super random. I don't recall really liking someone at the time, so it's not like I had somebody in mind when I had this dream. I've always been very open when it comes to like who my husband may be. I did not care about his ethnicity, but in my dream I did see the back of my husband's head, and I saw that he had kinky hair, and I saw the color of his neck. And so I knew that he was black. And that was interesting to me because, like I said, I was very open with whoever my husband would be. And so when I woke up from the dream, I thought it was really interesting because I'm not someone who really remembers my dreams like that. So when I woke up from the dream and I remembered it, I knew that it was something to take note of. So I immediately texted one of my friends and sent her a voice message and said, hey, this is the dream that I had. And we both started trying to think about what this dream actually meant. But in my spirit, I knew that I had seen my husband. I didn't know his face. I knew about what height he was, but that's it. A few months later, the Lord spoke to me and told me to get on online dating. When the Lord spoke to me and told me this, it did not even occur to me to pray about the timing of when I would be on online dating. And so I was like, okay, I wasn't really excited about it, but I was like, okay, we're going to get back on it. And so that's one thing that I would encourage y'all to do. Once you have heard the Lord speak to you about something, always pray about the timing in which you should do it. Again, that did not occur to me, but I didn't meet David until 2 years after the Lord had told me that. So I think that if I would have prayed more about the timing, then I wouldn't have run into so much confusion on the way. And so that is the beginning of this whole thing. And so as I was on online dating, I met a couple of different people and thought some of them may have been the person from my dream, but realized that they weren't. And I just felt a lot of discouragement. So after a while, I kind of just threw the dream out the window. And one of my friends actually suggested to me, what if you're not looking for physical characteristics? What if you're looking for how you felt in the dream? What if it was the character of the man? And so I was like, oh, that's a good point. So at this point, I had put anything I remembered about this man in my dream out of my head. I was barely even considering my dream at this point because I was so discouraged. And I was putting out what he looked like. So at this point, I was just like, you know what? Not even going to keep my dream in mind. I'm going to remember maybe the feeling that I had, but I'm just going to keep going on about my life. But I do know for sure that the Lord told me to get on online dating. And so I'm going to stay. So that was the kind of attitude I had about my dream and about online dating when I actually met David in May of 2022. And so I know y'all are probably thinking, wow, that wasn't that long ago. I know. But, you know, when God moves, he moves, and we were intentional about being obedient to the Holy Spirit. And so fast forward to May of 2022. At this point, like I said, wasn't really considering my dream. I met David on Upward. It's a Christian dating app. It's pretty popular right now. And when I first saw him, nothing came to mind about my dream. No bell was rung in my head. I just knew that I thought he was very attractive. And so I swiped right on him. He eventually swiped right on me. And then he started chatting with me. And so I noticed right away that he was very nice. He wasn't just trying to see how spiritual I was. He was actually trying to get to know me as a person, which was interesting. I didn't know how I felt about it at first because I was used to, especially on Christian dating apps, just being super spiritual right away. So I remember telling one of my friends, like, he's not asking me a bunch of spiritual questions. I don't know about this. But then I realized that he was actually really trying to get to know me and not so much impressed by what I did or how I presented myself. And so we kept talking. Eventually we met. We had a good time. I'll let y'all know more about those details when he is on my channel because I don't want to give everything away. But a month later, he asked me to be his girlfriend. And I was like, okay, let me pray about this because I truly was thrown off. My mom was like, I knew he was going to ask you then, but I had no clue. Based off of what I knew about him, I knew that I had enough faith to say yes to him. And I was just like, God, whatever I don't know right now, you're going to reveal, and it's going to be that. But I have enough faith right now to say yes. And so I said yes. And then by the time I got back home, the dream smacked me in the face. Okay. And so it was crazy because when I first had the dream, I knew that he was black, but I did not remember anything specifically about his skin tone. And when I got back home, I remembered that his skin tone was very dark, which y'all saw my cute baby. His skin tone is very dark. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. That's a detail about my dream that I've never remembered before. And then I realized that he was around the height of what I remembered the man to be. I remember telling my friend that he was about 5'8" or 5'9". I think David is between like 5'9", 5'10". And so I thought that was crazy as well. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I think this is the man for my dream. And so that was just crazy because I had already been talking to this man for a month. Nothing was going off in my head about this until I said that I would be his girlfriend. And then all the memories of my dream began to flood back into my head. So then I began having confirmation that he was the one, and it was absolutely wild. But even though the Lord began to speak to me and let me know that he was the one, I still had to catch up emotionally and in my brain. It took a long time for my brain to actually accept it and my emotions to actually accept it because, like some of you know, I've been through so much in relationships and have experienced so much hurt that I didn't really know how to feel about what the Lord was saying to me. But one thing that I said to the Lord when I decided to date David was, I know if he is not the one, that you are not going to allow me to marry him. Like, I trust in the Lord so much, and I'm constantly checking in with the Lord about, okay, do I have peace with this? How am I feeling about this? God, what do you think about this? Like, I know that if I stay close to the Lord, he is not going to let me marry somebody that I'm not supposed to marry. And so as I continued in a relationship with David and the Lord wasn't telling me to get out, that was my cue to keep going. And I even told the Lord, even if we get up to the point where we want to get married, where we want to get engaged, and you're like, no, don't do this, like, I will listen. And so that's one thing that I would say is that I held David with an open hand. At that point, I was very confident in my relationship with the Lord. I was also just very content in my relationship. I'm not one of those people who would say, I was so content. I wasn't looking for nobody. Obviously, I was looking for somebody, but I knew that me and the Lord were going to be fine if I didn't have anybody. And so I was just holding David with an open hand, and God kept giving me peace as I was with him. One thing that happened is he went on a trip with me in my Bible study, and we went to the beach together, and everybody loved him. Not only did they think that he was really cute and really sweet, but they also just loved his personality. They thought that he was very genuine, and they made it a point to tell me that, like, I love him. I love him for you. Y'all seem so great together. And I thought that that was so cool, because that was also helping me with my confirmation, because I had never received that much feedback from my friends before about someone. And they hadn't really met a whole bunch of people, but they made sure that they went out of their way to tell me how much they enjoyed being around him. And so there was this one particular instance where we were on the beach, and we were just walking. We were just walking on the beach. We were about to meet back up with our Bible study friends to head back to our beach house. And all of a sudden, David just picked me up and started running with me on the beach. And I was so thrown off. I felt so awkward. And my friend Danae, she was like recording. She was about to fall out because she just loves that kind of stuff. But yeah, we were running. He was running with me on the beach. I felt so awkward, and I just wanted to disappear. But I also knew that it was so sweet. So I was processing all this stuff in my head. And so, like, that was just such a sweet moment. Like, my friends just stopped and stared at us while he picked me up and ran with me on the beach. And I thought that was so sweet. And so when I thought back to that moment, and I thought back to how David, we would be in the store, and he would stop with me and like twirl me around in the store, God reminded me of my dream and how he was spinning me around in my dream. And God showed me that that was actually something that he did in real life. And I was like, oh my gosh, just like he was spinning me around in my dream, he spins me around in the grocery store, and he picks me up and runs with me on the beach. And that was just even more confirmation. And it's so crazy because, like, I wasn't even thinking about those details of the dream until God would just bring that back to my remembrance. And so I thought that something else that was cool is that in my dream, I did not see the guy's face at all. I just knew that he was black because of the color of his neck and the kinkiness of his hair, and his head was round, and like his head, the shape of his head was very round, and David has like a very round head. And so like that was really all I had to go off of. I knew that his shoulders were broad, but I knew they weren't super broad, and David has broad shoulders, but they're not super broad. And so as I trusted the Lord, and as I like trusted the Lord in a relationship with David, God began to bring all these things back to my remembrance. And so I would say that is how I knew that David was the one, is that he has great character. I felt safe with him. God brought back to my remembrance the dream that he had given me literally 2 years before that. And I would say one more thing. Babe, could you go get the mirror off the wall? The mirror, the husband mirror. Okay, so I've showed this mirror in one of my videos, like when I first started my channel. But back in 2018, I was thinking about, oh, y'all can see David right here. They can see you in the back in 2018, I was thinking about like what I wanted in a husband. But not only what I wanted in a husband, but I wrote it on a mirror so that every time I looked at what I wanted in a husband, I also wanted to make sure that I saw those things in myself and that I was measuring up as well. And so when I would talk to different guys, I would literally look at this mirror and be like, do they line up with this? And so I just want to tell y'all what's on this mirror. It says, I want him to be God-fearing, intimate relationship, kind, giving, and selfless, kingdom-minded, connected to his purpose, thinks I am so beautiful and does not put me down in any way, submits to the will of God, a leader, and loves my family. Okay, I want to stop at a leader and loves my family, because I don't know if y'all know, but I am obsessed with my nephew, Marcellus, And it was very important for the man that I was with to take an interest in him. And I had talked to other people where they knew that I was obsessed with Marcellus, but they didn't really ask about him or anything like that. But whenever I would talk to David and Mars would be in the room, like, he would make sure that he tried to hold a conversation with him, no matter how much Mars was paying attention, and he would ask about him and stuff. And so I was just like, wow, like, he really cares about my family. He cared about having a relationship with my family. That's something that he mentioned early on, was that he desired for both of us to have a good relationship with each other's parents. And so I was like, wow, mark that off the list. Also loves Marcellus. And the next thing I said was, funny, we can laugh together. We can definitely do that. And then I said, honors my purity and his purity just as much. And that's something that we were in agreement with as well, is that we would honor each other's purity. And so I realized that he marked everything off the list. And not only did he meet those criteria, but like, it was above and beyond. He above and beyond tells me I'm beautiful, above and beyond cares about my family, above and beyond, loves the Lord and has an idea of what he wants to do in ministry. And he's very God-fearing. And so, yeah, I just let all of those things come together, and all of those things together gave me peace. But I do want to say that I continue to check in with the Lord, and I was okay with letting him go if he was not it. And I want to emphasize, I was okay with letting him go if he was not it. And for a couple of reasons, because I knew that I would be okay with just God. And I also knew that I had been hurt enough to know that something would be really hard at first, that a breakup would be very hard at first, but that I would eventually be okay. And so I had enough experiences to know that I was resilient and that I would bounce back and I would be okay. And I knew that I loved God more than anything. And so that is how I knew he was the one. And so next time we will do a video and just tell y'all more about how we met. You do know that we met on Upward, the Christian dating app, but we would tell y'all more about our actual story, about how he pursued me, and just more about him in general. So thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for watching. I'm sorry if it felt like this was kind of all over the place, but that's kind of how I felt during this whole process. Like, oh my gosh, there are so many confirmations coming from everywhere. There's so many prayers that I was praying to God and checking in, and everything just kind of came together. So yeah, thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.